voice of free speech. The truth delivered. Common sense for the American people. Welcome to the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, it's Scott. Thanks for listening to Common Sense for the American People, taking a day off. But my friend Jennifer Horn is here to guide you through the breaking news of the day. Jennifer, take it away.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the Scott Jennings Show, Common Sense for the American People. You heard from Scott right there that he is off today, enjoying some well-deserved time off, but he is going to be back tomorrow. I'm Jennifer Horn. I host the Morning Answer on Salem Radio in Los Angeles, California, and happy to be sitting in once again. Happy President's Day to all of you, from all of us here at the Salem News Channel and Salem Media Group. Do you celebrate? Do you have the day off? It's kind of a mixed bag. It's sort of a ghost town around the old radio ranch, but, you know, we got our production staff in-house. We're all here, and obviously, we hope you are having a great day wherever you are. Let's jump into it. We still have lots of breaking news, even though it is a holiday. President Trump's been a little quiet over the weekend, but not on Truth Social. We'll get to that in a few moments. Let's start with the government shutdown, which is still in full effect. We told you on Friday that this partial shutdown was all but a certainty, and sure enough, at midnight on Friday night, early Saturday morning, the Department of Homeland Security is now going unfunded. Now, ICE has been fully funded and is fully funded for the next several years, but the Coast Guard, TSA, other departments within Homeland Security are without funding. So travel delays have already started to rack up across the country Saturday and Sunday. I don't think that this thing will come to an end anytime soon. I think Democrats are going to try to drag this one out to make a point about ICE, but we shall see. Now, before Democrats ran out of Washington, D.C., and really letting this shutdown happen, we know where they were going. Well, they went straight to Munich. Have you been seeing any of the audio, any of the video clips from Munich this weekend? It's a doozy. You have a lot of liberals who are going to Munich, the Munich Security Conference, to, insult President Trump. Not necessarily put on the best face when it comes to American politics. But we did have one man there who certainly got a standing ovation under some of the most interesting circumstances. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, went to Munich, almost drawing a red line, I think, putting a line in the sand, if you will, towards our European allies, basically saying that President Trump and America needs strong allies. We need European allies that have borders. We need European allies that are willing to protect themselves. We need people to be strong so that we can create a strong alliance amongst America and the Europeans to take on our most dangerous threats, primarily Russia, China, and Iran. And Marco Rubio, it was almost like an intervention, this speech that he delivered, but somehow he managed to get a standing ovation. Pretty incredible to think that Marco Rubio has really just slid into this role as Secretary of State, doing an amazing job. He has the ability to take really big, complicated ideas, break them down, and make them really consumable. Rush Limbaugh used to be great at that. I try to strive to do that every single day. Take big things that are tough and make them easy for people to understand. And that's what Marco Rubio did in Munich. He took really tough talk, he took some big issues, and he made them very consumable for the European nations to understand, our allies. Take a listen. This is cut 4.
And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
Yeah, tough talk, but he got a standing ovation. So I want you to remember that. I want you to remember what you just heard. And I'm going to admit to you something. You know, I was a Trump supporter from the escalator back in 2016. I know not a lot of people where I really was one of those. And I have the radio footage to prove it, because a lot of people around these halls, they weren't into Trump first. But obviously, people are into Trump now. They like what they've seen. But when Marco Rubio took that stage with him, I was not the biggest Marco Rubio fan. You remember the whole little Marco. You remember all of that with Trump, right? The back and the forth. And when I heard that Trump was looking at Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, I thought, what? That was like my least favorite. I'm going to be honest. It was my least favorite cabinet pick of this current Trump administration. But man, I am going to tell you, I was wrong. Marco Rubio is now my favorite cabinet member. He is funny. He is direct. He knows how to deliver a message. He can say tough things. He still gets a standing ovation. I cannot wait for this guy to be on a ticket with J.D. Vance. I want them to run together. After he's vice president, I would love to see Marco Rubio run for president. And the person he might be running against, let's say in 2032, maybe 2036, maybe he might be running against AOC, who was also in Munich this weekend. And, well, guys, you remember what Marco Rubio just sounded like. I want you to tell me if you think that on a debate stage, given a hypothetical debate right now, AOC could last for 10 seconds. Cut one.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Did that sink in? This reminded me, look, I was a really shy kid, so I didn't want to do debate or any of that stuff. It would have been fun. I think I would have liked it if I had actually let myself do it. But does this remind you of like a really, I'm going to say 9th grade beginning debate class put on in a high school that maybe doesn't have the highest marks in academics? That was a lot of ums and ahs and ums and uhs and research. And the question is, do we defend Taiwan? That's the question. The question is either yes or no, do we provide military defense to protect Taiwan against China? You don't need research because China has told you that they want to invade Taiwan. Now, I'm just saying, you put AOC let's be real. Her ego tells her that she could run for president, that she could be the first female president. Can you imagine that on a stage with Marco Rubio? Could you imagine that on a stage with a coffee mug? I'm just saying. Look, I don't want to downplay. I'm not one of those women who wants to downplay other women. I just would like to point out that this is a pretty basic question with an issue that has been on the table since Biden was in office. You've had some years to practice your response. And we got a lot of ums and ahs and ums and by the ways, and then we better check the research. There is no research. The research is just listen to what China says. China says they want to take Taiwan. China's actions show that they want to take Taiwan. So do we defend them militarily or not? You can say no. You could say yes. I should never say yes, but you could say no, and you could actually explain yourself. But instead, we got research. All right. And that's just the tip of the iceberg with this Munich security conference, by the way. There is a lot more. You've got Hillary Clinton getting schooled by the Czech prime minister. You have more from Marco Rubio. You have Gavin Newsom, who has made his way back to the international stage to insult Trump. We're going to have it all for you this hour, plus the latest on the meetings with Iran. Is there a peace agreement on the table? We will tell you. Jennifer Horn in for Scott. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, it's Scott. I want to talk to you about our friends at Balance of Nature. You can find them, by the way, at balanceofnature.com. They have this thing called the Balance of Nature Whole Health System. These supplements are perfect for a resolution in the new year. It's kind of tough to stick with New Year's resolutions, and that's why Balance of Nature's Whole Health System supplements are one of the easiest ways to do it. They're very versatile. You do 2 scoops of fiber and spice and mix it easily into drinks, and it adds a warm, aromatic depth. You can also open 3 of your fruit supplements and mix the powder into a smoothie, or sprinkle 3 of the veggie supplements over one of the savory dishes that you're having for dinner. It's called Balance of Nature's Whole Health System. These supplements include 47 ingredients of 100% whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers, perfect for your daily routine. 50% off if you do it now for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System from our friends at Balance of Nature. Get it at balanceofnature.com.
News, comment, and the stories and facts the mainstream media refuses to discuss. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
Here we are, Common Sense for the American People. It is the Scott Jennings Show. You can follow him at Jennings Show. I'm Jennifer Horn from Salem Media in Los Angeles. Happy to be filling in today for Scott, who'll be back tomorrow. Now, one thing, and I've said this before, filling in for Scott, I didn't realize he was such an advocate for Child Help. I think it's a great organization. I have helped them as well. And here's something that every parent needs to hear. More kids are being targeted online through gaming platforms, social media, and messaging apps. It's scary. Big tech isn't protecting them. These companies actually profit from screen time and engagement, and when predators slip through the cracks, families pay the price. Child Help hears from children every day who were contacted through games and apps, kids who were groomed, manipulated, or threatened by adults pretending to be someone else. One boy reached out through Child Help's chat hotline, terrified and ashamed. An adult he met in an online game was demanding photos and threatening to lie to his parents if he didn't comply. That chat may have saved his life. That's why Child Help matters. Your donation supports life-saving programs. Every $27 can help save one child from abuse. If big tech won't protect our kids, it is up to us. We must do it. Donate today at childhelp.org/Scott or text Child Help to 94878 and give $27 today. It helps. Donate $27 today at childhelp.org/Scott or text Child Help to 94878. Now, we were talking about the Munich Security Conference. That's where many Democrats took off to. Government gets defunded. Well, at least the Department of Homeland Security gets defunded. This partial government shutdown takes place. Democrats were out of Washington by Thursday evening, and many of them went to Munich. You had Gavin Newsom. You had AOC. You had Hillary Clinton, all who were on the stage talking about Trump bad. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio got a standing ovation for delivering a strong message to Europe saying, hey, we want to stand with you, but we want you to be as secure and safe as possible. We want you to have borders. We want you to spend on your own defense. We don't want you to rely on other people to take care of you. We need strong allies in these huge threats that face us: Russia, China, Iran. This week, by the way, President Trump is going to be speaking with Iran, we think, or at least his team. And we're going to see if we can get something of a deal there, something we can trust. But there are a lot of hotspots on this planet, and we need a strong Europe to stand with a strong America. That was the message from Marco Rubio. Now, it was a different message from AOC. And we were chatting a little bit on the break. And Sean, you can give me the high side when we have this video. But I am telling you, if you remember, and this is in the Wayback Machine. I know everything feels like 5 minutes ago to me, but in 2007, if you remember this Miss Teen USA, that was kind of who AOC sounded like when she took the stage. So hold tight on that. We'll let you know when it's ready. But she wasn't the only Democrat who struggled for answers. Another wannabe presidential candidate, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, had this to say. Cut 2.
On Ukraine, what does victory look like?
Ambassador? No, please. I'd love to hear your answer.
It is. The two that I am on the panel with are much more steeped in foreign policy than a governor is. But I do think that Ukraine's independence, keeping their land mass, and having the support of all the allies, I think is the goal. from my vantage point, go ahead, Ambassador, do a better job.
Wow. This is the one who somehow, I don't know, there's a kidnapping plot, a little sketchy. I don't know. I'm maybe thinking she didn't have anything to do with that after watching that answer. All right. There was also some really interesting back and forth with the Clintons, and Hillary Clinton had a conversation with the Czech deputy prime minister, who basically had to school her on what woke is. We're going to have that for you a little bit later on in the program, but he actually had to say, a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. You know, when you've got our European allies actually teaching the former Secretary of State, the former First Lady, about biology, how much of a problem we have on the left. It's embarrassing. And this is on a national stage where you actually have to have kind of a smackdown, if you will, from the Czech prime minister to someone who should probably know better, or at least be focusing on things that make us secure, not necessarily the wokester nonsense about trans rights. It's an interesting one. All right. Coming up, we have the SAVE Act, which President Trump is pushing for, right? In Washington, D.C. California has an answer for him. Assemblyman Carl DeMaio joins us as the Scott Jennings Show continues.
You know something? Universities are kind of a bad deal. 6 figures of debt for a bachelor's degree that signals less every year. 4 years spent navigating ideological rules instead of learning how to think. Grades inflated, standards lowered, dissent punished. We call it higher education, but it's mostly expensive daycare with a credential attached. The University of Austin, also known as UATX, is different, however. Admissions at UATX are based on test scores alone. No essays, no resumes. Nobody cares who your parents know. If you're smart enough, you're in. UATX students turned down UChicago and fled Barnard to complete a demanding great books core, including Aristotle, Shakespeare, de Tocqueville, alongside real math, science, economics, and AI. Classes are small, professors actually know your name, grades aren't padded, excellence is measured and rewarded. From day one, students work directly with top founders, investors, and institutions, building companies, doing serious research, and landing real internships. Then here's the part that changes everything. There is no tuition. Thanks to private donors, every UATX student graduates debt-free. You're free to take risks, free to start companies, and free to build a life instead of paying off loans. If you want an empty credential, look elsewhere. If you want a serious education that actually prepares you to lead, apply to the University of Austin. Visit uaustin.org. That's uaustin.org.
If the leftists haven't had enough yet, there's more. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Here we are. Thanks so much for joining us. It is the Scott Jennings Show, common sense for the American people. I'm Jennifer Horn. Happy to be filling in for my friend Scott Jennings. He will be back with you all tomorrow, taking a couple of days off, which is great for him. He'll be ready to go. You can follow the Jennings Show at Jennings Show. Imagine that. You can follow me on X and on Truth at Jennifer Horn, on Instagram and Facebook at Jennifer Horn Radio. Now, one of the most important initiatives President Trump has been working on as of late is the Save America Act. And the House of Representatives has pushed through the Save America Act. It now sits in the hands of the Senate. Whether or not the senators will be able to cobble together support for a bill that, by the way, 80% of Americans, no matter what your political preference is, supports, well, it seems that they're having some trouble. So President Trump vowed on Friday that he would issue an executive order seeking to require voters to present proof of citizenship if the Senate does not pass the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, the Save America Act, which passed in the House this week. He said on Truth Social on Friday, quote, "There will be voter ID for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not," exclamation point. "Also, the people of our country are insisting on citizenship and no mail-in ballots with exceptions for military, disability, illness, or travel." He followed up with the second post 30 minutes later, floating an executive order idea saying, quote, "This is an issue that must be fought and must be fought now. He said, if we can't get it through Congress, there are legal reasons why this scam is not permitted. I will be presenting them shortly in the form of an executive order. So President Trump, very passionate about this on Truth Social over the weekend. Here in my home state of California, there is also an effort, if you can believe it, to get voter ID on the ballot in local municipal elections in the state of California. The man driving it is an incredible fighter for the state of California. Brings some sanity here that is much needed, that's for sure. Assemblyman Carl DeMaio joins us right now. He represents the 75th Assembly District in California, which makes up beautiful San Diego County. You can give him a follow at Carl DeMaio. Assemblyman Carl DeMaio, welcome into the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jennifer.
Now, this is a really important time to talk to you about all of this because you are working on an initiative, and we're going to have you tell us about that here in a second, that would get voter ID on the ballot in November. That's what we are all hoping for. President Trump is working on this for federal elections, wanting to require voter ID. And before we jump into the specifics of what you're doing in California, talk to us about the numbers, Assemblyman, because this has support from Democrats, Republicans, all ethnicities. By and large, this is one of those 80-20 issues that you hear pundits always talking about, where people really do support protecting our elections.
That's right. The only people who don't want voter ID are Democrat politicians who like to have doubt in these elections. This is an initiative or concept, voter ID, that has 70% support overall. It's 90% by Republicans. It's 80% by independents. And it's even 50 to 50% by Democrats across the polling. More importantly, when you take a look at things like citizenship verification, that's 80% support, and it's a 65% support base by even the Democrats who are voting. And then finally, when they say it's racist, the polling shows that non-white voters support voter ID greater margin than the Caucasian voters.
Yeah.
So the polling overwhelmingly shows that this is a bipartisan issue. But the politicians don't want to see it because they like the idea that people have doubts about election integrity, and that those doubts sow discord and reduce participation.
Yeah, they like the ambiguity. And I have to tell you, I host this morning show in Los Angeles, and this morning we were talking about this very issue. We were talking about you as well, Assemblyman. And we got a phone caller because there are a lot of women in Washington, D.C. right now who say that this is sexist because somehow women, when they get married, aren't capable of going to the Department of Motor Vehicles and changing their name on their driver's license. Or somehow somebody might say it's racist because somehow people of color can't find their way to the DMV to get a driver's license. It is so insulting to me. We had a woman who called in who said she's a member of Planet Fitness, which is a chain of gyms. And she said, you have to show photo ID not only to get a gym membership, but if you want to rent some of the weights, if you're using them for your workout, you have to show your photo ID, Assemblyman. If they're doing it for weights, certainly I think we could probably find a way to do it for our elections.
Yeah, remember, the Democrat politicians who oppose voter ID and say it's such a burden, they required all of us to have vaccination cards,
right?
To go to various places. So spare me this notion that somehow people are too dumb to figure out how to just, on a one-time basis, by the way, it's a one-time basis when you register to vote for the first time. Under this system, we would just simply require that we do a citizenship verification. As soon as you go through that one time, then you're grandfathered in. The reality is we haven't been doing this all along. So when Democrats say, oh, it's going to take too much work, well, it's because you guys haven't been doing it from the get-go, and I think we deserve to at least do a one-time citizenship verification on anyone who wants to be added to the voter rolls.
And this mail-in vote scam is something that really started here in California. Like many of the things that Democrats want to try, we're like the Petri dish in California, and then they roll these bad ideas out across the country. But they used COVID to say that everybody got a mail-in ballot. And look, in California, you could have gotten a mail-in ballot. It was called an absentee ballot. You just had to be a human person requesting it. Now, they won't clean up the voter rolls, and they send out ballots to everybody who's on there. You've got dead people. You've got 25 ballots going to one address. press. There are just so many things that go wrong. You don't even need to have the proof to know that there's a chance that things could go wrong in our elections with this current system.
Yeah, if you want to see something truly frightening and outrageous, check out the audit of California's 2022 election done by the Transparency Foundation, where they found erroneous ballot rate of 9.6% on the California voter rolls. 9.6% of voter registrations were erroneous, either illegal immigrants or people who moved out of the state long ago. You know what that equates to? About 2.5 million ballots were sent out to people who are not eligible to vote, but they still got ballots. And they also, obviously in California, legalized ballot harvesting by strangers. They don't do signature checks on ballots that are returned, so there is no verification of chain of custody or identity. And so what we have is the worst election practices in California. If we get this voter ID initiative passed in California, we'll go from being the worst to the best overnight.
Now let's talk about it. So your group is called Reform California, and you take on important candidates and important issues. This is one that will truly change the way elections are run in California for the good. So talk to people about the initiative. You've been collecting signatures, and man, let me tell you, this guy's on bus tours. He's like creating an army of volunteers. It has been spectacular to see. So Assemblyman, tell us about your initiative and what you are going to be doing this week.
So it's a state constitutional initiative, so the politicians can't ignore it. It's amending our state constitution. It requires, number one, citizenship verification. It also requires audits of our voter rolls every 2 years before they mail out any ballots to make sure that the voter rolls are accurate and properly maintained. It also requires voter ID, whether voting in person or by mail. By mail, you'll have to use the last 4 digits of a government ID that you note with your voter registration record. So all of these reforms are all in this state constitutional initiative. We need to get 1 million signatures, valid signatures, to place this on the ballot. We've collected over 1.3 million raw signatures, and we're finishing our audit and our validation of all those signatures, and we'll submit them in a matter of the next few days to force this issue on the November 2026 ballot here in California.
Now, remind me, how many signatures in total did you collect? 1.3 million?
1.35 million raw signatures. Mm-hmm. We are doing a verification of every single signature, which is very unusual. That usually you just submit, more signatures than you need, and whatever gets kicked out, you have enough as a cushion. Not ours. We're going the extra step of validating every signature on our own ahead of time, so that when we walk in there, we can confidently tell every registrar or voter, and if necessary in court, if we have to sue, here's how many valid signatures we have proven are in our submission. And so we need 874,000 signatures. We're probably going to submit close to 1.2, 1.3 million, and we will know that all those signatures are valid.
That's incredibly important because what people may not understand is in this verification process, especially in a state like California where it is completely run by Democrats, your registrars are all Democrats, everybody's a Democrat. They're going to be looking at every signature and they're going to be kicking out as many as they can, whether you just have a signature that pokes out of the box or whatever it is. They are going to be looking for perfection. So the fact that you go through and pre-verify to know what you're dealing with, I think that's genius. And when do you find out if this qualifies?
We will know no later than middle of May, because once we submit our signatures, the county registrar of voters in each county, 58 counties, have to do a raw count, and then they start doing random samples. And we'll start getting the results of the random sample late April, early May. So we'll know pretty much in mid-May. They have to finalize the count no later than mid-June. And June 28th is the deadline for initiatives to be placed on the ballot.
So this would be on the ballot in November. So unfortunately, we wouldn't have those signature practices in place. Once it's on the ballot, we just have about 30 seconds left here with you, Assemblyman. But tell us those numbers again. It seems that if this can get on the ballot, Democrats are going to be worried about whether or not this is going to pass. It seems like it will. It seems like it's going to have the right support.
Yeah, once it gets on the ballot, this is going to pass. But that's why the Democrats are starting to talk about dirty tricks. They're going to try to sue, saying it's disenfranchising voters. And we're prepared to go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court for an emergency injunction, and we will get that emergency injunction. I have no doubt about that. So the other thing that we're hearing they're going to do is they're going to put a phony measure on the ballot to confuse voters. A phony measure that would literally pretend to be voter ID when in fact it's not. And so here's the thing. These people are liars, cheats, and thieves. They're willing to try to manipulate the election to try by hook or crook to win. And that's why we need voter ID more than ever, because these are the sorts of folks that we're dealing with and how shameful they are.
Assemblyman, we're out of time, but thank you so much for your time today. Assemblyman Carl DeMaio, if you can, check out his website, donate, reformcalifornia.org. If you can stop it here, it doesn't spread to the rest of the country. Reformcalifornia.org. Follow him at Carl DeMaio. Thank you so much, Assemblyman. I'm Jennifer Horn, in for Scott. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Thank you for joining us. It is the Scott Jennings Show, common sense for the American people on the Salem Radio Network, the Salem News Channel. And sadly, we have some breaking news, guys, into the Scott Jennings Show newsroom, which is cranking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You didn't know that, but Scott has his own newsroom right here in the basement of this studio. And cranking out today, we just learned about the passing of Robert Duvall. He is a legendary actor, director, iconic, really. He passed away on Sunday. According to his wife of over 20 years, Luciana, announced his passing on a post on Facebook, said he died on Sunday peacefully at home, surrounded by love and comfort, 95 years old. Good for him. She said, quote, "Yesterday we said goodbye to my beloved husband, cherished friend, and one of the greatest actors of our time. Bob passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by love and comfort." He was an Academy Award-winning actor, a director, a storyteller. She said to her, he was simply everything. And actually we can just think back. I mean, think about some of the projects. Robert Duvall was one of those iconic figures. He was just in everything. To Kill a Mockingbird, Tender Mercies, The Godfather, incredible in that, Apocalypse Now, Days of Thunder, Gone in 60 Seconds, Sling Blade, Four Christmases. I wonder if he's as proud of that one. That was a great movie. I like that one around the holidays, and a whole lot more. So, Lonesome Dove, another great one. Thank you so much, producer Sean, on that. Yes, Lonesome Dove is a great one. So an amazing actor, an icon, and sadly passed away yesterday, but at the ripe old age of 95. That's a good life, a life well lived. Prayers to the Duvall family. All right, we started the program talking about the Munich Security Conference, and we heard Marco Rubio really lay down the law for Europe. We also heard AOC say this. Guys, cut one, please.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Yeah. Got to tell you, baby cakes, that research that you're doing, it's not going to do anything. Economic research is not going to change the mind of China. But in any case, her performance, well, it reminded us of something. And one of our great producers here on the program, producer Sean, just said, Jen, this reminds me of that beauty queen. Remember the Iraq? So we want to take you way back in time. The year, it was a simpler time, 2007. This is Miss Teen South Carolina.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
That was even too much for the guy from Saved by the Bell. Mario Lopez is like, oh man, I got to get out of here. What is this? The Iraq, such as? Somebody told her, if you don't know what to say such as, and it makes you sound smarter, but you have to use it right. You have to have it in the right spot. And I just want to get back to the initial question, just like I would with AOC. The initial question was, what are you going to do if China invades Taiwan, military or no? That was a question for AOC. The question for Beauty Queen South Carolina over here was, why can't people find America on a map? Somehow, we heard her recite every country that she knew, including the Iraq and the South Africa. And we heard her say such as a lot. Again, sometimes it's best to just say, can you repeat the question, and just get a couple of more seconds to kind of compose your thoughts. That might have been the way. But yeah. So that was Miss Teen South Carolina. Very much on par with AOC, but I'm going to defend Miss South Carolina. First of all, she's a gorgeous girl. I'm sure she's probably doing something wonderful right now. And she was on a beauty pageant stage. AOC's at the Munich Security Conference, people. Holy smokes. I'm Jennifer Horn. It is the Scott Jennings Show.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
The truth delivered. Common sense for the American people. Welcome to the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, it's Scott. Thanks for listening to Common Sense for the American People. I am taking the day off, but sitting in for me today, my friend Jennifer Horn. Jennifer, take it away.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Scott. And I hope you are enjoying your time off. I'm going to tell you what, this guy never takes time off. He is the hardest working guy in radio and television, in media. And so I can just imagine, watch out tomorrow. All you liberals on CNN, watch out, because Scott Jennings is rested and he's coming.
Would and should.
For you. That's for sure. All right. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jennifer Horn. I host the Morning Answer on Salem Radio in Los Angeles, and I am happy to be in today on the Salem News Channel, Salem Radio Network. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about quite a bit is all of the fraud that has been happening in Minnesota. It was first revealed by an independent journalist, Nick Shirley, who is now in California working on California's fraud. And when it was revealed, this is sort of what kicked off the ICE agents going in this surge to try to crack down on what was going on in Minneapolis, because we found that a lot of the money that was being doled out, they were going to illegal immigrants. Many cases, it was the Somali community that was receiving this money, and they were putting it into, fraudulent places, like learning centers, except learning was spelled leering. And there wasn't any learning going on. And daycares, where there wasn't much care going on and it wasn't really operating during the day. And then we found out that that same money was being sent to terrorists that want to wipe Americans off the planet in the form of al-Shabaab back in Somalia. So it's not great. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of curiosity on the Democrat side to try to investigate all of this. Now, I live in California, and if you think that the stuff that we've seen in Minneapolis is bad, the stuff that we've seen coming out of Minnesota, wait till you see what California has to offer you. We have a homeless industrial complex. We have waste that is taking form in Medicare and Medicaid abuse. You had Dr. Oz from President Trump's cabinet here just weeks ago trying to uncover some of that. And it's a mess. Now, one of the Republican candidates running for governor is Steve Hilton. You can follow him, stevehiltonforgovernor.com. You can see what he's all about. You can volunteer. You can donate. Steve Hilton X on X. But he decided, before we even get into office, before I can win this election, let's Doge California. And so this idea was birthed to create California Doge. And it has kicked into full gear, and the scandals are already starting to come out. So joining us today is the director of California Doge, the California Department of Government Efficiency. Jenny Ray LaRue is here. You can give her a follow at Jenny Ray CA, and we'll tell you how you can find out more about California Doge. But Jenny Ray, thank you so much for being with us today.
Really glad to be here. Thank you for having me. And like you said, I think that California just said, hey, Minnesota, hold my beer.
Totally.
That's why we're here for CalDoge. Can't wait to get to the bottom of this.
Now, talk to us about when this started, because this is new. California Doge is brand new, and already you are uncovering millions of dollars in fraud and waste.
That's exactly right. So a year ago, I actually started to ask the question, where is all the money gone? I think it's the exact right question as Elon Musk and Doge and the federal government were beginning to look at that. And one of the main findings that they had was that a lot of the disbursements are not happening with any oversight. So we built a team of analysts to start to look at the budget from the top down. What's really accelerated this is, of course, Nick Shirley's work in Minnesota, and then the focus on California, not just by Californians, but specifically because we have an ally in the White House in President Trump. And so we, 2 weeks ago, it's been 2 weeks, that we set up this new version of CalDoge and said, hey, what if we used AI as one of our first and forefront fraud investigators to kind of identify where some of the smoke is that might point to fire, and then use our investigations team to go a little bit deeper. And it only took us 7 days to find our first instance of fraud in California. Yeah, it's a target-rich environment for any Top Gun fans. That are out there,
I was going to say, this is like fishing in a stocked pond is what this is. You just need a little net and you're going to run into something.
That's exactly right. They're jumping into the boat. And what we have in California is, like you mentioned, a complete lack of oversight. We have a top to bottom Democrat state. So we have governor's office, every constitutional office, and the legislature that is all Dem. And then they don't have any interest in fixing this problem for us on our behalf. So this has to be an outside, bipartisan, but outside organization, because the people who are in power are the exact ones who are benefiting from it, which is what our first fraud investigation found.
Okay, so I don't want to waste any more time because we've only got about 4 minutes left here, but you have got the big hot off the presses press release that you have found, and this involves the Elevate Youth California program. You got to tell us about this, and it's all about the money that's supposed to be collected from the cannabis tax. California has legal marijuana. They set up the cannabis tax for drug education, but where is this money really going, Jenny Rae?
So one of our first questions it was, hey, why is there no oversight in California? We use in California financial intermediaries that basically shift all of the responsibility for this money into unelected organizations. And so Elevate Youth is one of those organizations. Elevate Youth is a part of the Center at Sierra Health Foundation, which is a 501c3. You can look up their 990s, or you can go to caldoge.ai to read our full detailed report on this. But what happened is that this organization, the Center for Health at the Sierra Health Foundation, went from $11.8 million in funding when Gavin Newsom took office to $197 million in government funding in 2024.
Nice gig if you can get it.
Seriously. Also, the CEO's compensation ballooned during that time. He now makes over $600,000. So it pays to be in a Dem-friendly nonprofit in California. And what we found was that the $370 million designated specifically from the cannabis tax to this went to 517 microgrants between $700,000 and $1 million each, and $700,000 and $1 million each. And each of those are given to organizations that are supposedly meant to fund substance abuse prevention with our youth. In fact, they're actually going to leftist activist organizations. And I'll just give you a couple of quick examples. One of them, for example, the key issues here were, $700,000 to a organization that does LGBTQ plus Asian immigrant storytelling. Nothing to do with substance abuse education. One of them for the Sick Youth Foundation that does voter education and voter registration for youth in high schools in Los Angeles County. And there are, of 517 of those, I could go on and on and on. We detailed them in our full report, but these are not used for substance abuse prevention. They are used for leftist, activist, voter registration, and get out the vote activities.
Yeah, they're creating an army of voter activists out there who are also creating an army of people who are going to help support Democrats because they're the one giving them these micro grants.
Exactly. And this is very convenient, like you said, if you can get it. However, it happens to also be illegal, which ironically, Gavin Newsom's press office on Friday messaged out on X. The only thing that's not allowed to be used for these funds is explicitly partisan activities. And so we said, you're exactly right. That's what we said. We didn't say that this was used for voting machines, but for the voter machine. And therefore, because you've just self-owned, we're going to refer this over to the DOJ. Mm-hmm. And so this file went to the DOJ on Friday, and we're looking forward to enforcement on this specific file, but this is just the first of many to come.
Wow. All right. Can you give us a sneak peek as to what you're digging into next?
Well, one of the specific interests of the White House, of course, are federal fund dollars. So if you think it's fun to watch how the cannabis flow from California that originated in California wait until you see how these millions and billions of dollars in government funding are coming down from the federal government. So they want us to track what's happening. We're coordinating with the White House. So I can't reveal exactly what that is. This is dangerous. When Nick was here, he was cornered by 2 Somali gangs.
Wow.
And actually had to be evacuated from one of his investigations.
Jenny,
we can't tell you when he's going to be on site. There's a lot more to come.
Too much. We're out of time, but I got to tell you, what you're doing is fascinating. Follow her at Jenny Ray, CA, and caldoge.ai. Jenny Ray LaRue, thank you so much for what you're doing. Jennifer Horn in for Scott Jennings. It's a Scott Jennings Show.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Thanks for joining us. It is the Scott Jennings Show, delivering common sense for the American people. I'm Jennifer Horn, happy to be sitting in today for my friend Scott Jennings. He will be back with you all tomorrow on the Salem News Channel, Salem Radio Network, and you can follow him, Jennings Show, on X and all over social media. You can find me there too, Jennifer Horn Radio, Instagram and Facebook, and Jennifer Horn on X and on Truth Social. Now, one of the things I'm very excited about, Scott and I have actually only hung out together in person once. We've done radio together. Obviously, he's allowed me to sit in here, which is fantastic. But we got to hang out together at an event that we put on here in Los Angeles, and he was fantastic. But I cannot wait to cruise with Scott Jennings and Mike Gallagher. Guys, we are setting sail. It is Salem Media's Gulf of America cruise. You want to dip your toe in those crystal blue waters. I know you do. It's coming up in November 14th through the 21st. I've done these trips before. Mike Gallagher and I have gone to Alaska the last 2 years, and we can't wait to take Scott now to the Gulf of America. I've never been to the Gulf of America, so this will be a first for me. But what I do know is that Holland America is 4-star luxury cruising, that Inspiration Travel makes each and every one of you feel like a VIP. If you are traveling by yourself, you will not be lonely long, because there is a whole group of patriots ready to travel with you. If you are traveling as a couple or as a group, these vacations are totally customizable. And what's a lot of fun is not only do you get the best with Holland America and all of the amenities, the spa, that's where I'll be. If you ever lose me and you're aboard this ship, come to the spa as I drop my headset, because this thing is fabulous. You will be relaxed for days and days and days. And so let me tell you, the people at Inspiration Travel make you feel like a VIP. And every day that we are on board this ship, well, guys, we have special activities just for you. We have Q&As, we have meet and greets, we have speeches, we have talks, we have all kinds of opportunities to interact with one another. So you truly do make friends that last a lifetime, and we all inspire each other. And we are going to some amazing places. Half Moon Cay in the Bahamas, Ochos Rios in Jamaica. We're going to Georgetown in the Cayman Islands, and Cozumel, Mexico. So this is going to be fabulous. Setting sail through the Gulf of America on one of our Patriots cruises. You will not regret it. Here's how you can find out more. I like to go to the website because I like to see what's ahead of me. I like the itinerary. I like to look at the cabins. All you have to do is go to inspirationtravel.com/Gulf Cruise. Inspirationtravel.com/Gulf Cruise, or you simply text the word cruise to 94878. That's cruise to 94878. You can also call 855-565-5519, 855-565-5519. Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, yours truly, Jennifer Horn, and all of you joining us for our spectacular Salem Media Cruise to the Gulf of America. Be there with us. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. We go in and out of Florida, by the way. A lot of you might be on the East Coast, so it'll be excellent and easy for you to get to. All right. We were just talking about fraud in California, fraud in Minneapolis. Well, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, did not have on my bingo card what a funny guy Scott Bessent is. He is. He doesn't take any you-know-what from anybody. That's for sure. He put out a tweet this week with a press release from the Treasury Department. He said, President Trump has been clear that Americans have a right to know that their tax dollars are not being diverted to fund acts of global terror or to fund luxury cars for fraudsters. At Treasury, we follow the money. We did it with the mafia, we've done it with the cartels, and we're doing it with the Somali fraudsters. We are going to offer whistleblower payments, ching ching guys, to anyone who wants to tell us who, what, when, where, and how the fraud and money laundering has occurred. So now there's a cash value to this. I'm just saying, if you're a whistleblower and you're like, I'm not going to help anybody, well, now you're going to get paid. The Treasury Department is looking for rats. I'm sorry, I mean those of you who would like to expose fraud and get a little payment for your trouble. So how about that? Big announcement from the Treasury Department today. Also going on, and this one is a biggie. Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York, well, he's been in office, just a couple of months. And you'll be happy to know that it's kind of as bad as we thought it was. That's right. So Mayor Mamdani has been in New York for just a couple of months. And major transit crimes are now up 17% in New York City in just the first few months of this year. New York City experienced its first subway shooting last week. Crime on the New York City transit systems spikes in the last few months. Major crimes such as murder on subways, buses, that surged 17% to 246 so far this year from 210 in the same period last year in 2025. I know Mayor Adams wasn't like a super delight, but this Mamdani has got to go. I'm Jennifer Horn in for Scott Jennings. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show. You want to drive a leftist crazy? Tell the truth and keep smiling. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Isn't that the truth? Truth-telling, happy warriors. That's who we are around these parts. That's who Scott Jennings is. And I'm Jennifer Horn, happy to be filling in for him today, delivering common sense to the American people. And a lot of stories are now starting to center around Iran. You may have heard over the weekend there were large protests in Los Angeles, in Toronto, in other cities across our country supporting pro-democracy Iranians. We have also heard some breaking news that there could be a meeting between Team Trump and Iran's highest levels of their leadership tomorrow. President Trump wants a peace agreement with Iran. One of the issues is, can you trust what Iran tells you? Part two, if you look for regime change, what comes next? What kind of vacuum is created? And this is not just one of those easy problems. Not that any foreign policy is easy, but certainly it's not as complex as when you are dealing with the country of Iran. Joining us right now is a friend of mine. He's absolutely incredible. Ever since October 7th, he has done an incredible newsletter, which you can get at RabbiMichaelBarkley.com. He's got a brand new podcast coming soon. He is a speaker. He is fabulous. You can follow him at the Rabbi's Table. Rabbi Michael Barkley, thank you so much, and welcome to the Scott Jennings Show.
No, thank you for having me, Jennifer. It's great to see you.
Now, you have written a piece that's out at PJ Media now. And let's start there, actually, because in this piece, you say that there are a lot of people who think that President Trump is failing in these talks with Iran, but that's not necessarily the case.
No, it's not at all, actually. It's the exact opposite. Just because it's not moving at the pace that some of us may want doesn't change the fact that he's truly walking a balanced beam. People don't understand what is really going on there. The issues of the protests are important on an ethical standard, on an ethical place, but they're really unimportant on another level. The protests in Iran can't do anything. They can't take out the Ayatollahs. We do need a regime change, and it's not just because they're authoritarian. It's because the mullahs, the Ayatollah, the nation is committed to the most extreme version of the Quran and the goal of a worldwide caliphate through Sharia law. Mm-hmm. And we need to take out that regime and make it safe for Israel, for the entire West, for all Western civilization. And Trump is doing a great balancing act because we really don't know how much nuclear weapons they have. We do know that they've been producing more and more ballistic missiles. We do know that there's a lot of danger. And so he's really been doing a terrific, terrific balancing act of trying to get peace, get the regime out. First of all, get rid of the nuclear program, get rid of the ballistic missile programs. And people need to give him more credit for what he's doing right now.
So tell us about this. You and I had this conversation several weeks ago about what happens if there is regime change. I think many people probably just expected Trump to go in with the military, try to get this guy out like we've seen before, but that's not necessarily the best avenue here because we are unsure about what comes next, Rabbi.
It's actually a really bad avenue to think that way because, look what happened in Syria. We had a man who was on the top 10 wanted list is now the leader of Syria.
That's right.
In Iran, there's no underground, there's no leader that's in place. Because they don't have weapons. Anytime someone starts to make any noise, they just kill him. Mm-hmm. So the only real leader you have for Iran right now that anyone can notice is the son of the Shah, the former Shah. Well, the son, Pahlavi, has been in the United States for 47 years. I don't think he wants the job, let alone certainly, I don't know if they know him or want him. And he doesn't have a commitment. It's not, people think that the Shah has been in power for 1,000 years, his family. No, the Shah's family was put in I think 1921 by the Brits. So there's really no commitment to Pahlavi as the de facto leader. He's sort of falling into that, but there's no leadership, and you can't just take out a regime in a nation that is as powerful and as large as Iran without having something to replace it. And that's another place that Trump and Rubio especially have been very, very careful and cognizant about. Rubio's made the point we need to have a regime change the same way Netanyahu has. It's really, really clear, but it's dangerous. It's not so easy. And Trump's really doing a great job working it.
What are you hearing? And by the way, I think the joke is, Marco Rubio's got a little too much to do. I don't think he can be the next Ayatollah. He can't be the new leader of Iran, that's for sure. I think he's got things on his plate, as we might have seen in Venezuela. But what are you hearing, and what's the sense of violence on the ground? Have the protests stopped? Are they just not getting as much coverage? What's the real number of people who have died? Because you're hearing anything from 7,000 to 30,000, and nobody seems to know what the real number is.
Well, I've heard everything up to 200,000.
Yeah.
No one knows the real number. If you talk to people who have families still back in Iran, they don't say anything. They just say, "Oh, it's great over here." They can't say anything because the phone call's being monitored, and it's really pretty horrible over there. Last night, so they're Monday, but it was last night for us around 2:00 in the morning, I think, our time. The Iranian Navy has now moved and is doing exercises in the Strait of Hormuz. Mm-hmm. So they're really getting more and more prepared, and they're ready for war. Israel is ready for war, and the U.S. has this armada, as well as the Gerald Ford is going out. We have more weaponry in the Gulf right now than World War I and World War II combined. So I don't think anyone thinks these negotiations are going to work. It's just a matter of if, how, and when the military gets involved and what the trades are. Trump's doing a great job of trying to negotiate this, and he's trying to support Israel at the same time. It's a really tough situation. The people in Iran are suffering really badly. Mm-hmm. But what are we supposed to go do?
And I think that's the question is, if this does go to war, which I think many of us believe there is military conflict in some capacity ahead, what does that look like? Is this going to be a boots on the ground kind of thing? Is this going to be fought in the air primarily? What does this look like to you, Rabbi, if it goes in that direction?
So I think it looks in a couple of different options that have been put out in different ways. One is that you would go in with that, you would have boots on the ground to go out and try and take out the regime. Mm-hmm. One is yesterday as well, the Israeli Air Force has extended the length of their F-35 so they can go in and out of Iran as they will. You will have at least 2 aircraft carriers. Each of these aircraft carriers have over 90 jets and helicopters. So it'll be an air attack that way. We have no idea how many submarines there are, mm-hmm. let alone how many Tomahawk missiles. So Originally, the thought was it's going to be in and out very quickly. The most recent comments coming out of D.C. are that it might be as much as a few weeks or a month even. It's not going to be quite so easy. It depends a lot on, when it starts, how ready is Iran, and how much are their defenses actually just blustering as opposed to being honest. Israel is committed. They have no choice. The nuclear program and the ballistic missiles must be removed from Iran. They have thousands of these missiles. Even if the Iron Dome and the Iron Beam are able to take out 95%, you're still talking a lot of missiles that would hurt and kill civilians in Israel. They can't allow that to happen. And Israel's the first defense for Western civilization, and Trump knows that, and the United States. And Rubio's a genius, and he knows it as well.
Rabbi Michael Barkley is with us. You can follow him, The Rabbi's Table. You can follow his website as well. Sign up for his newsletter. RabbiMichaelBarkley.com is that website. And Rabbi, I think what's really interesting is to hear you speculate. And I feel like the people in control are the right ones right now. God help us if Joe Biden were in control. We've got President Trump. We have Marco Rubio, who are not going to want to see something prolonged here. If we get involved militarily, it will be quick. Even if it's a month, that's still relatively quick. We're not talking about the 3-4 years that Ukraine and Russia have already gone. Iran has said, and this was a statement that they made today, got some coverage in the media, that the U.S. must prove that they want to do a deal in these talks. Now, how else can we say we would like to have a deal? The question is, are they trustworthy? And every single time they've made a deal with the United States, they have proven that they are not.
Well, they're allowed to by the Quran. The Quran allows them to lie to the infidel, and we are all kafir, we are all infidels. So because the goal is to create a worldwide caliphate of Sharia law. So let's remember that. I think one of the things, and this is where Trump and certainly Rubio are very different than Witkoff and Kushner. Mm-hmm. Witkoff and Kushner look at the world transactionally. If you're peaceful and if you have peace and prosperity, and I have peace and prosperity, we're all happy, we can all live together in peace. Trump would like that, but I think he realizes that's not such a great option in terms of who they are. And Rubio understands that the Iranians do not view the world transactionally. Mm-hmm. They view the world theologically. So for them, it's not about peace and prosperity. It's about the creation of a worldwide caliphate, period. End of report. Mm-hmm. They view this and all this conflict that we've been seeing with Iran, with Hamas the last couple of years, all of the years that we've been seeing wars, they view this as one 1400 war that's been going on in their quest to create a worldwide caliphate.
Right.
And we need to understand that. We really, really need to get that. Rubio gets it. I don't think Kushner or Witkoff quite get it at the same level. And, Trump's dancing the dance. He's terrific.
All right, so we have just about a minute left here, Rabbi, and I'd love to get what you think these meetings might look like this week, what you think the time frame might be. Are we indeed 100% headed to conflict? And 10 seconds. No, I'm just teasing.
In the Talmud, we say everything is in the hands of God except being in awe of God. So everything's in God's hands.
Of course.
That being said, the prophecy or prediction certainly would be, I think, that as soon as the Gerald Ford is close enough, we're going into conflict. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think there's a choice. And whether it's started by Israel, started by the U.S., or started by Iran, I think it's just that simple. We will, I believe, be going into that military theater.
Does anybody come to our aid, by the way? I mean, it seems that Israel and America will stand together in this fight. Does anybody join us?
I wish that they would.
Yeah, that's the...
But again...
You see, and you see a little sparkle of hope when you saw Marco Rubio in Munich at the security conference. You saw he got a standing ovation. You saw a lot of those Eastern European countries seem to be very, I think, inspired by the message and the strength of Trump. But it is going to be interesting to see if anyone else stands with us. Rabbi Michael Barkley, thank you so much for being with us. Give him a follow at The Rabbi's Table. Brand new podcast is coming, guys, and you can check out his website, get his newsletter, RabbiMichaelBarkley.com. Rabbi Barkley, thank you so much for joining us on The Scott Jennings Show. We appreciate you. There is more up ahead, guys. Jennifer Horn in for Scott. This is The Scott Jennings Show.
Common sense for the American people. This is The Scott Jennings Show.
here we are. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Horn, sitting in for Scott. He'll be back tomorrow, but we are delivering a big, healthy dose in his absence of common sense for the American people. Don't forget, you can follow him, Jennings Show on X. You can follow me as well, Jennifer Horn on X and Truth, Jennifer Horn Radio on Instagram and Facebook. Now, we have a lot to wrap up on. The show goes very fast, but let's start back again to this Munich security conference, where Hillary Clinton has dug herself out of wherever she was, and she made herself known in Munich. She's on the stage with the Czech deputy prime minister. Now, I happen to be Czech, jak so máš to all of you, and I could have not been more proud of my Czech brethren. Cut 5.
We saw the cancel culture. We saw the woke revolution. I don't agree with the gender revolution, the climate alarmism.
Which gender? Women having their rights? Let Peter go on.
I think there are two genders. So, but some of us think that there is more than one, or more than two. Sorry, more than two gender. I think there is male and female, and the rest probably is a social construct. So this is something that went too far.
But does that justify selling out the people of Ukraine who are on the front lines dying to save their freedom and their two genders? If that's what you're worried about?
Can I please finish my points? I'm sorry that it makes you nervous. I'm really sorry for that.
It makes me nervous. It makes me
but seriously. I'm sorry if truth makes you nervous, but we know you're married to Bill, Hillary, so I guess there's that. This guy's great. And how sad is it that he takes fire for saying that there are two genders? Whew. Where are we, guys, when that has become a point to argue? It is not an arguable point. There are two genders. Everything else is a social construct. Well done, Czech Deputy Prime Minister Machinka, I think is how you say his name. Let's do a little more because they look like they were having such fun together. Cut 6, excuse me.
Are here on the West, and let's respect ourselves in the differences we have. So I don't really like such a labeling as fascist. I think it's
there are fascists in the world.
Well, maybe there are, but
including in Europe.
I think there are. It ended some 70 or 80 years ago.
No, it hasn't.
Hopefully, this is something I don't really like. That every day, every time I hear labeling someone as fascist or Nazist or whatever, I think we should calm down, because this is dividing the society. We are maybe you are smart people. I'm not as smart as you, but so we should try to learn to talk to each other again, because this is something that went too far.
Guys, I'm going to float an idea here. I'm a big baseball fan. Let's do a little preseason trade. AOC and Gavin Newsom for that guy. I like that guy. We need that guy in this country. We need him. Don't call everybody a Nazi. You weaken the term Nazi. Hello. All right, quickly here. We learned about the aliens this weekend. Barack Obama is back, and he made a shocking revelation. Cut 10.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
What was the first question you wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens?
The aliens have all been let into the country by your friend Joe Biden. That would have been the answer. They're all here. The illegal ones, anyway. This is why you must watch this program on the Salem News Channel, guys, because if you saw the answer to the question, his eyes went all over the place about the aliens. He's hiding something. You know they all are. He tried to play it off. He was slurping his coffee up real quick so he wouldn't have to say anything else. He said they're not in Area 51, 41, Studio 54. They're not in any of those places. But he said that he has seen the aliens. I have too. Anybody seen Nancy Pelosi? That is all the proof that you need that alien life is amongst us. She's 800 years old, and I know there's a forked tongue in that mouth of hers. I know it. I know it. Just saying, they're here. Cue the X-Files music. They're here. They have to be. And you just heard it from President Obama. All right, I guess you'll just have to tweet us about if there is alien life out there, at Jennifer Horn, at Jennings Show. Let us know. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy President's Day. Jennifer Horn in for Scott Jennings. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.